Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond, and this is Content Marketing School. I apologize for being a couple of minutes late. I was having a little trouble connecting to Instagram, so I wanted to make sure that we're all starting this at the same time. So, Joseph, I am so excited to have you here with me. I met you several years ago. I got your name from someone on Clubhouse, and I'm not sure who it was, which is why I'm not going to give them a shout out. And I was looking for someone to talk about sort of what to wear on video. And you came on my other show and you were on, I think, a panel on another show. And we've kind of gotten to know each other over LinkedIn because you share amazing content, and some, offline chats. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you, Annette, for having me. It's great to be back again with you and all of your guests who are watching and listening. So, I am Joseph Rosenfeld. I'm an image consultant. I got my start in this business in 1989. Oh my gosh. And I started working in retail in kind of a high-end experience at Neiman Marcus in Chicago. After a dozen years of that life, I decided that I didn't want to be as good as my last sale. Har har, because now that I am an image consultant for all these years, I have to sell my service as a product, and I'm not selling suits and ties and dress shirts and sweaters and pants and jeans anymore. I have to sell me. So I had to take my skill set that I had developed over that dozen years and apply it in a whole other way. But the reason that I really got into image consulting was the way that I was advising clients during all those years. I was always selling more than the clothing. I was actually always selling my clients on themselves and who they are and who they could become. And I had a significant aha moment about that because I realized that the reason that I had even gotten into doing all of that to begin with was I had to do that for myself as a teenager, who was really down on himself because everybody around me used to tell me how ugly they thought that I was and had identified all kinds of things about me that they thought were negative. And in fact, none of it was negative, and none of it, and the other parts of it were not exactly true. I was never a bad looking boy. Every teenager goes through awkward times, and that was certainly true for me. And because I was able to reinvent myself and come up with the true version of me and to be able to put that out there, I've essentially dedicated my whole entire life to pursuing the craft, the art, and the science of image consulting. So that's me.
I love that. And I have to tell you, I am one of those weird people who loved high school. I loved high school. I mean, I was in the drama department. I was a cheerleader. I was in some accelerated classes. So I knew the smart kids. I knew the jocks. I knew the people that were into the creative stuff. But I will say that I was rather awkward. I mean, I was younger than a lot. My mom put me in school early, so I was younger than a lot of the other kids. And that when you're, 13, 14, can make you be really, really awkward. And so I love that. And, I wish I had somebody to be telling me what to do and how to overcome that way back then. Obviously, I did get over it, but it took me a long time. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on here, as I said, I've known you for a while. And one of the reasons that people are hesitant about being on video, and anyone who knows me, I'm a huge advocate of being on video, is because they're uncomfortable. And part of that is people are not confident about the way they look. And I had sort of a revelation. I was at my, not visiting, I was at my dentist around the end of the pandemic. And he was telling me that he had a real uptick in cosmetic dentistry because people were on Zoom all the time. And so they were looking at themselves and are like, "Oh my goodness." And, they're not just seeing the wrinkles, they're seeing, the teeth and problems there. And, I think that's a factor with LinkedIn Lives. I mean, I talk to people about being on my podcast. This is obviously goes on the podcast. And when I say, well, you have to be on my live show first, they're like, oh, it's like I never hear from them again. And it's because I think they're uncomfortable, you know, just not confident in their appearance, as well as they're worried about making a gap. But so if I'd love to just kind of jump into this conversation and have you share some ways of, getting more confident on video because you do a lot of videos and you talk about a lot of, not always, a lot of is helpful, as far as what to wear, things like that. But a lot of it is also personal stories. And so if you could jump in and just talk about that, I would love that. I think others would as well.
Well, sure. Obviously, as an image consultant, the idea of dressing appropriately is centermost. And I will say that it is the center of things because I mean, just look at me. I'm the center of attention right now that I share with you, Annette. And so we are the object of our onlookers' eyes and attention. How we look, how we show up is central to the point. For those who are actually watching us on video, live or in a recording after the fact, how we attend to ourselves with our style, the way that we present ourselves, even the way that we use our eyes and the way that we use body language, the way not just our hands, but also the way that we position ourselves. How do we sit in our chair in front of a camera? All these different things play roles in how we look and how we come across. How can we actually make ourselves look as relatable as possible to our audience, or as I like to think of us as, in addition to being an audience, onlookers, observers? How can we actually look as natural as possible, as if we were really just sitting across from each other in a couple of chairs in a lounge or something?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so dressing appropriately is important, and I'm going to say, when I say something like wear solid colors, I'm not, because I understand my environment and I have set myself up in such a way that I don't have to play basics like wear solid colors. But
Hmm.
if you don't take all the other steps that we can talk about, like around how to have the right background and lighting and how to position your camera and your grooming and makeup routine and your technical setup. I mean, these things are also really important, but if you skip out on all of that, the one thing that you can do really is to dress appropriately. So as I started saying here, wearing solid colors that contrast with your background help to create a focal point for you. So, Annette, I know you, you're always wearing black. It's kind of like your thing. Um, it looks, with your blonde hair, it looks good. And then you've got like the very colorful, art behind you of your dogs. And I think what that does is it shows contrast and it puts you in a focal point. Um, I have designed my room with cork wall covering behind me and like cinnamon colored window coverings on the three windows in this room to kind of feel like a 1970s recording studio, maybe where Fleetwood Mac might have recorded the Beatles album. And it's like my den, my kind of personal inner sanctum, if you will. And happens to also be my closet and office. And I see clients here, by the way. It's pretty cool. I can give you a tour of that sometime. But because I've got it all organized that way, I'm wearing a black shirt with blue detail with pattern, and the whole thing, the environment, and me as an environment within the space environment, I actually stand out on camera in a way
Mhm.
that I want to stand out. Like, I don't wanna stand out too much because I'm introverted and I like things that are kind of calm and quiet, but that show certain parts of my personality, which we're gonna talk about that in a second. Um, Another tip can be if you're going to go against the grain of doing solids, then select a subtle pattern, which is like what I'm wearing. And the colors that I'm wearing are also muted. And that helps to minimize distractions, especially when you can understand what your environment is like. And it's okay if you're in an environment that's lighter like yours is, Annette. Like most people have white walls or light colored walls. Most people don't have cork wall covering up their wall space like I do. So if that is the case, then you almost need to have something that is bright enough on you, but that still contrasts against a lighter, brighter background like white walls will do.
Mhm.
So all of those kinds of things matter. The key is to avoid distractions or to minimize them. And you want to still dress, even though you're on camera, you still want to dress in a way that reflects the formality of the meeting. So I knew that we were going to have, kind of an informative and still fun and lighthearted with some giggles, yeah, that we can't help but have because it's us talking. Um, I didn't want to wear a jacket, for example, but if I had a more serious presentation or a conversation to have, maybe with a client, or if I was doing some, major heavy duty learning experience for a group of people, I would be in a jacket. I would throw on
Mhm.
a black jacket over this and, bing, bam, boom, I would, raise my authority level more. So there are lots of little things that you can add in around how to position yourself and present yourself. And I think in the end, it also comes down to who are you as a person? What about the messages that you are going to deliver, even if the situation is a little more like our conversation that is supposed to be more informal? How do we want ourselves to look so that the information that we are providing gets across to the observer, onlooker, participant, um, person that we're in conversation with? How do we look to that person so that our message comes across and that that person takes the action that we would invite them to take? We're constantly marketing and selling. We think that, but and we want to put that off and not think that that's true. But we're always doing that. This is a marketplace of ideas, and I think how we show up can only help us. But if we screw up, it hurts us.
Mm. But don't scare people. Don't scare
No.
people that it would hurt you too bad. And it's funny that you say that. And I do always wear black. I don't always wear black when I'm not, on camera. I always wear black long sleeve when I'm hosting my show. Partly because I want the consistency and I want it to be sort of evergreen. So I'm not, wearing different things, and not so much when I'm on somebody else's show. But I do take your point, about personality. And one of the reasons that I love video so much, and even more specifically a live show like this, is people really get to see us kind of who we are, the way we are. And I do live so often that I really do feel like it's just you and me sitting here talking. I mean, I don't, there are people here. I see interactions from, people on LinkedIn. I see people welcome joining us on Instagram. And but it really is, I feel that comfortable. So if you've given us some great tips on what to wear, and I think one of the things that a public speaking coach said years ago when I was first starting speaking to groups myself, and it's that people are so nervous. They say that the audience really is not so much, they're not judging and looking at you. They're not they do not care so much what you sound like. It's really about your message. But it sounds like what you're wearing, although, the message I say is the most important, but that is part of the message.
Oh, sure. What we have to share is the heart and soul of things. It's just that how we sound when we say those words and how we look when we sound saying those words all adds up to the full package. So if you're thinking about the content or the quality of what it is that you want to share and you have remarks prepared, you're probably also thinking about how you sound when you say what you have to say.
Mhm.
And likewise, you should prepare ahead of time for the way that you want to show up. Because if you, this is what I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's the growth opportunity that we're talking about, which shouldn't
Okay.
scare a person. It should,
Absolutely.
you know, enroll us into actually thinking about how can we improve and do better
Yes.
instead of just the lowest common denominator like I put clothes on. Um, you want to take it to the next level, then you want to think about how you're going to show up as it pertains to your message, and it will help you to improve and stay focused on not only the message itself so that you can actually do what you should do when you're an expert at something or you're very knowledgeable about something. You don't need notes. You can be extemporaneous. It can come from your heart. It can come from really like your gut, and that improves how you sound, because if you sound a little wistful, when you have something good to say, it makes people feel like, does this person have confidence in what they're trying to talk about? And how you show up can make you feel confident, make you sound confident, and remind you as you are in your conversation that you're delivering all of that value to the person that you're in conversation with. So much to the point that it becomes seamless. You're really not focused on yourself anymore. You're aware. You have an awareness of yourself and your role in the conversation. And then you can almost really forget about everything because you're moving on autopilot. You're in the moment having conversation, and you're serving somebody by being very present with that person.
So when you're talking about it, and I like what you said about the idea of wearing the jacket. It really does make a difference. I Most of the I know a lot of people that do LinkedIn lives. I'm sure you do as well, and most of them are pretty casual conversations like this. But I do know that some people, I do see them wearing jackets, and it does change the feel a little bit. To me. So one of the things, and I know we're talking about video, but I know that you work with a lot of high level senior people for to prepare them for all kinds of things, getting ahead
Yeah.
of their job, and I'm sure TV appearances and things like that. And while you obviously do are helping them actually probably pick out their clothing. I know you do all that stuff. And any people you should definitely follow him because he does a lot of great things, and you'll see his closet on LinkedIn. But my point is, can you share some tips, a few things that you tell them before they get ready to go? Because some of the people that are watching now or listening on the podcast will be consultants or business owners or something who may be going on a live show or on a broadcast or something. Can you share some tips for them?
Yeah, but I think that what we're really getting into is talking about the essence of confidence. And for me, this is really about several things. Practice. Spend time practicing speaking on camera if you're not a person who gets to do that a lot. Some of my tech executive clients, like to be in their basement at home or something. Like they don't really want to be out giving an address. They're quiet and introverted and thoughtful, and they like building things, and that's what's in their heads. And yet, they're there's a reason why they are running the companies, and sometimes they really have to get out and make an address, or they have to address the media, or they're talking about their company and stock or something like that. So these types of scenarios really require practicing. And for those of us who are not running, tech companies, but we're still running our own concerns, um, hey, whatever we're doing is still consequential to ourselves and to the people that we're serving. So
Mhm.
why shouldn't we practice? The more you actually are out there doing your things online, all of those experiences add up to practice, and then it results in being able to practice less because you are now practiced. But you have to get there. So if
Mhm.
you're not there, it's not remedial. It just means that you want to be prepared so that you don't flub. And that's the next thing, is really to prepare thoroughly. Outline your main points, rehearse them. Doing these kinds of things helps to alleviate having some sort of anxiety, I would say. And these types of things are important because these things that we're talking about are about a kind of inner confidence. I have to pause and just say, and I write about this a lot in a lot of my posts, even this week. The series that I'm doing on LinkedIn is kind of delves into this to some degree about a person's it factor. There's an inner self assurance that I call inner confidence, but I don't call it inner confidence because I want to delineate between the inner and the outer. The inner self assurance is the gift we give to ourselves, where we know who we are just for ourselves. It doesn't matter about anybody else. The outer confidence is what kind of emanates or oozes from our being, from our essence, and is what people around us receive. So, in order to, you can say what you're going to say, you can sound the way you're going to sound, you can look the way you're going to look. But if you still look very nervous and chattery and what have you, um, those things are telltale signs that create cognitive dissonance. Well, you sounded really great, but you looked like a nervous wreck.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that happens, that doesn't work very well for the public. I mean,
Mhm.
sadly, we have experience of this with a certain debate from a couple of weeks ago,
Yes, I
and
recall that.
and the world can't stop talking about it. So, that is on a level of the most consequential thing that could probably ever happen in the world. But yet, if you have a presentation to make that provides you and your company with tremendous opportunity and could be a little bit make or break for you, the thing to do isn't to be nervous about it. The thing to do is to prepare thoroughly and to practice a lot before you have your moment. And then have good posture. It is amazing, even when you're seated in a chair, just like we are, it's really easy to like let your posture go. And then, and when that happens, wow, did you just have an energy drop? What happened? So when you sit up straight, even in your chair, and when you do that, you have your position in front of the camera just so, and to engage with your camera and practice being in front of the camera so that your camera is your friend, not your foe. You do these things, and all of a sudden everything starts to click. The more
Mhm.
you practice with it, and the more you realize that these are just tools to help you be as close to people as you can be if you can't be live and in the same physical space with another person, it becomes pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah, I love that you say that, and I wanna just, before we get to final thoughts, I want to just, share my screen here and show your LinkedIn profile, and, it is what you're talking about, the whole, cognitive dissonance. I think the most, often, uh or easiest example of that is when someone if I'm talking to you and I'm saying, "Yes, I agree," but I'm shaking my head that there's that off, or when you're in a conversation and sometimes people nod because they want to show that they're paying attention, and that can be seen as agreement. So you have to always think about those things. So before we get into final thoughts, I want to just say, and you are the only person that I know that I think a photo like this, a banner background, really works for, because it's so, yeah, it so goes with the background of your headshot and everything. Um, so I will suggest to people that they do follow you on LinkedIn, and you have quite a few. You share a lot of information. Are you open to connecting with people on LinkedIn?
Oh, sure. People are happy. I'm happy to take followers if you want to click follow. If you think that there's a good reason that we should actually connect, then by all means send me a connection request. I'm happy to do that.
And I love this, all these things, and I particularly love the ones that you do often do in your closet, which is, you know, absolutely amazing. So, do follow Joseph. He really shares so much information that you will find it very helpful. I read your stuff all the time,
Thank
and so as we're nearing the end, it goes by so fast. I always like to ask all of my guests. I want to just say hi to my friend Jillian, who is joining us from Austin. She was so excited to hear you chatting with me today, Joseph.
Hey, Jill.
She does a lot of she's a LinkedIn live stream coach. So this is really kind of in her wheelhouse. So what would you like to share as sort of a final thought that I haven't asked you, you haven't mentioned so far, that you think would be important for people to sort of take away from this?
I guess the last thing that I could share that I think is really important, we're talking so much about how the content that we have to share is so important. Just remember that the way you show up from head to toe, even if we can't see the whole of you on camera, can help you to prepare for yourself. Like, I dress entirely the way that I would dress to meet a person in person, even if you can't see me from below my chest. Uh,
Okay.
that really helps add gravitas to myself for myself. And think about the way that you're dressing from head to toe. This is true whether you're meeting in person or only on camera, that especially the part that is visible to the onlooker, whatever you're wearing makes a statement, and it adds to whatever statements you're making that come out of your mouth, which is your intelligence and your genius. You can end a statement in a declarative with a period. You can punctuate it with an exclamation mark. Just don't leave anybody questioning what your statement is. Be declarative or be demonstrative. Those are your two choices, you know, when you're dressing for your audience, because you're also dressing for yourself. And if you can make what you look like into the right kind of statement, it 100% supports exactly what points you're trying to get across, and is going to make you look and feel and help you sound confident on camera.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's a perfect note to end this on. Thanks to everyone who has been with us. most people for the entire time we're here together. And I will be seeing you next week. And Joseph, again, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thrilling. Thanks.